beneath the gray overcast sky of Yemen, where an earthquake had just swept through. Like a nightmare, the small village by the river now lay in ruins. Brick houses once filled with laughter had crumbled into heaps of debris. Trees were uprooted and scattered, and a smell of dust mingled with the anguished cries of survivors. Amid this chaotic scene, the People's Army rescue team emerged, like a final ray of hope, accompanied by a canine dog named Bazo, a four-legged warrior with sleek black fur, sharp eyes and a keen nose, honed through hundreds of hours of rigorous training. Bazo was not alone. The rescue team quickly set to work, alongside the Myanmar military, who had been tirelessly digging since the ground shook violently 2 days earlier. Joining them was the Turkish rescue team, seasoned experts from a country all too familiar with devastating earthquakes. The site was shrouded in dust and smoke, the roar of excavators blending with the urgent shouts of the rescue crews. Yet Basil remained astonishingly calm. The dog moved steadily through the rubble, nose constantly sniffing, ears perked like radar. Time passed minute by minute, each second a desperate battle between life and death. The rescue team had found a few survivors on the first day, but as time wore on, hope grew increasingly faint. Suddenly, as the sun began to set, Basil halted in a particularly treacherous section of the rubble, where a massive concrete pillar lay precariously blocking access to a dark void below. His ears shut up, his nose pressed close to the ground, and then he barked loudly. Rapid, fierce sparks and unmistakable declaration. Jan, Bazo's handler, instantly recognized the familiar signal. "Someone's alive," he shouted, his voice hoarse from dust and hours of pent-up tension. The Myanmar military team rushed over with equipment, cutting tools, crowbars and wooden planks for reinforcement. The Turkish experts deployed sound detectors, trying to pinpoint the exact location of the life Bazos had detected. But the situation quickly grew complicated. The rubble was too unstable. Massive concrete slabs, intertwined with jagged steel rods, protruded everywhere, and a single misstep could trigger another collapse. Burying all hope, a dust-covered Yama soldier muttered, "If someone's down there, they don't have much time left." The air grew stifling, sweat streaming down the restaurateurs' faces, mixing with dirt into dark streaks. Basil, as if sensing the urgency, barked and pawed at the ground relentlessly, his eyes gleaming with determination. Jan knelt beside him, whispering, "Easy, Basil. We'll get it done." A split-second decision was made. They had to dig immediately. Despite the danger, the Turkish team used their cutting tools to break through the top layer of concrete, the screech of metal against stone piercing the air. The combined Myanmar and international rescue teams carefully removed smaller debris by hand, each movement deliberate yet urgent. The work progressed in a tense, taut atmosphere, the roar of the cutting tools mingling with the rescuers' ragged breaths. Suddenly a terrifying sound ripped through the space, crack sharp as a blade slicing through the night, echoing across the ruins. A massive concrete block weighing tons slid down from above, kicking up a blinding swirl of dust. Like a small tornado, a yammering soldier nearby barely had time to yell, "Get back!" before leaving aside, his foot slipping on broken bricks. As he crashed to the ground, the slab slammed down where he just stood, missing his feet by inches, shaking the earth violently. He lay there gasping, clutching his chest, his voice trembling with shock. "Damn it, that was close. Holy hell, that thing's heavy as a mountain." The team froze, heart stopping for a split second. Dust caught at their vision, coughs erupting everywhere. "Careful, everyone. Don't let it collapse again." A Turkish expert roared, his voice rough, eyes bloodshot from strain and grime. He gripped his cutting tool tightly, knuckles white as if suppressing a tremor. Jan turned to his team, urgent yet resolute focus. "Bazos is never wrong. Someone's down there. I'm sure of it." He glanced at the dog, who stood firm, nose to the ground, ears erect, Unshaken by the chaos, no one spoke. But their eyes blazed with fierce determination. They couldn't stop, couldn't give up now. The Turkish team resumed cutting. The tools roared, tearing through thick concrete. Debris flying everywhere. But each cut made the rubble tremble slightly, emitting faint, chilling freaks as if the entire structure groaned, teetering on the edge of collapse. A Myanmar soldier gripping a crowbar, sweat dripping from under his helmet, whispered to his comrade, "If it falls again, it's not just them who'll die. We're all done for." His teammate prying at a brick rasped back, "So what, we just stand here? Keep digging, no excuses." Over an hour passed, in a brutal struggle with the wreckage. Sweat soaked their clothes, streaking down dirt-caked faces. Hands bled from sharp breaks and rusted steel. But no one paused to bandage them. Then, a tiny gap appeared between two tilting concrete slabs, just big enough for someone to peer inside. Bazo lunged forward, shoving his head into the narrow space, barking louder than ever, his voice echoing through the deathly silence. His tail wagged furiously, thumping against nearby to be with dry, hollow thuds. Jen dropped to his knees, pressing his ear to the gap, holding his breath. Then he heard it. A faint broken moan, fragile as a dry leaf in the wind, but enough to make his heart pound. "I hear it, they're alive, hurry. No time to waste," he yelled, his voice cracking with emotion and urgency, slamming his hand on the ground to release the tension. The team poured everything into the effort, but each piece of debris removed felt like a gamble with fate. A Turkish expert holding a sound detector, his face taut with strain, muttered, the breathing's weak, barely audible. "If we're not fast, we won't make it." Jen gritted his teeth, turning to Bazo with a trembling but trusting voice. "Come on, buddy. Just a bit more, you've got this." Bazo responded with a barrage of barks, resounding like a valor on the edge of life and death. His eyes blazing in the dark. The air grew suffocating heavy. A mummer soldier, hands shaking as he pried at a slab, suddenly shouted, "It's shaking harder. Watch out!" At that moment, the rubble quaked violently, dust raining down from above with a dull, ominous thud. "Stop! Don't touch it!" a Turkish expert bellowed, throwing up a hand, his face pale. But Jan shook his head firm. "We can't stop. If we do, they're dead. Keep going." The team clenched their jaws and dug on, movements swift yet delicate, like a dance on a razor's edge. Then the defining moment arrived. A small dirt and blood-streaked hand emerged from the gap, twitching weakly as if pleading for life. "It's a kid, my God! It's a kid!" a yammering soldier cried, his voice breaking with shock and joy, tears streaking his dusty face. Without a care to wipe them, the Turkish team slipped a rope through, pulling gently but precisely. Every inch calculated, a yammering medic shouted. "Not too fast, check if they're stuck. Pull too hard and they're gone." The team held their breath, time stretching into eternity. The faint scratch of the rope, cutting through the deadly silence, has all eyes fixed on the gap. Finally, a girl of about 10 was pulled free, her small body coated in dust, eyes shut, her breathing a fragile thread on the verge of snapping. Her skin was cold, lips purple from oxygen deprivation, but her chest still rose faintly. "She's alive, she's alive!" Jen shouted, his voice breaking, tears streaming down his grimy face, as his trembling hands clutched Bazo's head. In gratitude, Bazo stood panting, eyes shining as he watched the girl, as if knowing he just snatched a soul back from the abyss. Her mother, standing nearby, screamed through tears and rushed to embrace her. My child," she sobbed, collapsing before the rescuers, her shaking hands grasping hands. Thank you," she repeated, tears carving paths down her weathered face. The girl was laid on a stretcher and rushed to a nearby field hospital. Doctors reported severe dehydration and a broken leg, but her life was safe, a true miracle. Bazo stood quietly by, tail wagging gently, eyes bright with an understanding of his feat. And Yemen's soldier knelt beside him, rubbing his head. "You're my hero, Bazo. A Turkish team member with a weary but warm smile added. I've seen dozens of rescue dogs in my career. But Bazo, he's a true warrior. Without him, we'd have missed her. But the story didn't end there. As night fell, word came of another area in the village, where a family of 5 was believed trapped. Without hesitation, Bazo and Jan led the team to the new site. This time the terrain was even worse. A 3-story house had collapsed entirely, forming a towering pile of rubble, mixed with splintered wood and twisted steel. The Turkish team warned of aftershock risks. But Bazo pressed on. He began his work again, nose tirelessly sniffing through the dark and biting cold of the Manhattan night. After nearly 4 hours of digging, Bazo signaled life once more. This time it was a middle-aged man, trapped in a tiny pocket between 2 slabs. He was unconscious but breathing. The team worked relentlessly, and when he was pulled free, he opened his eyes, whispering, "My wife, my kids. Where are they?" The search continued, but tragically no one else survived that wreckage. The man broke down, sobbing into his hands, yet still gripped Jan's hand, thanking him for saving his life. As dawn broke, the rescue team took a brief rest by the riverbank. Bazo lay curled up beside Jan, his eyes closed after a long night of relentless effort. A Miami officer approached, carrying a bowl of water and some food for the dog. "This little guy did what machines couldn't," he said, his voice filled with admiration. A Turkish expert nodded. "We have technology, but sometimes it's the instincts of a dog, like Bazo, that make the difference." Over 2 days in Yemen, Bazo helped save 4 lives, becoming a source of pride not only for the military, but for everyone who witnessed his feats. That small dog, with his brave heart and miraculous nose, became a symbol of hope, resilience, and unity transcending all borders. No matter how devastating the earthquake, the light of life still flickered on, thanks to the tireless efforts of Bazo and the rescue teams. A story that would be retold for years to come, a testament to the power of human and animal compassion amid disaster. This is a fictional tale, inspired by the real-life reality that today in Yemen, many canine dogs are undertaking noble missions, playing a vital role in searching for and rescuing victims in the challenging aftermath of earthquakes.